joined now from North London by Michael Harris, a friend of Lyra's who set up a GoFundMe page to help pay for her funeral. So far, it's raised almost £30,000 in just a few hours. Thanks very much for being with us this evening. You have our deepest sympathies, of course. We'll ask you about the GoFundMe page in a moment, but first of all, tell me how you knew Lyra and what sort of woman she was.
I mean, Lyra was just an absolutely amazing human being. I met her when she was 24. She was already a full-flight investigative journalist. She was researching the murder of a Northern Irish MP 33 years before. And I had met her because we were campaigning to reform the law of libel in Northern Ireland so that journalists such as Lyra could get could publish without fear of being threatened by libel actions. So she had a strong moral conscience. She was a really strong, probably one of Northern Ireland's most prominent advocates for gay rights. She was just she was also a really lovely person. She was so warm, quietly spoken, but with a sort of powerful dignity. And everyone that met her, I mean, she was a lovely, humble, down-to-earth person. Everyone that met her just was sort of, you know, taken away with her, and she was a kind of she was someone that lots of people would describe as a friend because she was so open and she kind of was tireless in the campaigns that she worked for.
Yeah, she certainly does sound a remarkable woman. What prompted you to set up the fundraising page?
So a friend of mine, Podrick, texted me the news this morning, and I was just absolutely devastated. And I just wanted to do something. I wanted to make sure that Lyra could be remembered, and so we just set the page up within about 5 minutes, got it out there on Twitter, and the response from fellow journalists, from people all around the UK, Ireland, the world, has just been absolutely amazing. People paying tribute to Lyra, in particular people paying tribute to Lyra's writing. I mean, she wrote a letter to her 14-year-old self a few years back that went viral in Northern Ireland about growing up gay in Northern Ireland, and that really touched a lot of people. So her journalism, her writing, her as a person kind of has just inspired people to give the money. And we want to help her mum. Lyra was a carer to her disabled mum, so we want to make sure that the funeral expenses are covered. And so the GoFundMe's there. It's going to hopefully raise £30,000, and hopefully we can also get people to give a legacy so that other investigative journalists such as Lyra in Northern Ireland are supported, because frankly it is actually dangerous being a journalist in Northern Ireland at the moment.
Well, the fund, I think, is certainly going to exceed £30,000. It's almost reached its target. You mentioned that letter a few moments ago that she wrote to her 14-year-old self. I read that earlier. I mean, it's very moving. She wrote, "You're going to join a scheme that trains people your age to be journalists. For the first time in your life, you'll feel like you're good at something. You'll have found your calling." And she really did find her calling. You've talked about the investigative journalism she wrote and she carried out. She wanted to make the world a better place.
She really did, and she thought that writing about her experiences, writing to explain what was going on, was the way in which that she could sort of make a better place. I mean, her journalism, you know, when she was talking about the investigation into the death of the MP 33 years before, she faced legal threats at 24 years old, and she stood up to them, and then she tried to campaign to change the law in Northern Ireland. I mean, that takes some guts and determination. And, you know, working with Lyra, she would just endlessly be optimistic, full of life, full of passion, and she did want to change Northern Ireland. She cared really deeply about Northern Ireland and the people of Northern Ireland, and she wanted to use journalism as a way of kind of getting past the horrors of the past, exposing what had happened, and moving on past the charity to the tragedy to a more progressive future. And I mean, what's particularly sad is that I think Lyra she had a sort of post-sectarian identity. She was of a new generation of people in Northern Ireland that viewed themselves as from Northern Ireland, but not Protestant, not Catholic. you know, not necessarily British or Irish, but had a new sort of identity. And for her to die at the hands of a sectarian murderer, at the hands of a terrorist, I think is a horrible, dark irony.
Yeah, I think we would certainly all agree with you there. Thank you very much for that tribute, and best of luck with the fundraising page.
Thank you. Thank you.